It's not like in India where a lot of the subjects are compulsory. So like my son recently gave his year 12 exam. He dropped all his science subjects, chemistry, bio, physics, everything, and he took business studies, legal studies, economics. The only two, three subjects that are compulsory are maths and English. Otherwise, you can select whatever subjects you want and give your board exams and get the scores that are required. And then after that, you go into university, and depending on the course that you want to do, you can do a 3 year degree course or a 4 year degree course or a 5 year double degree course. Or if you do medicine, then you can do it for 5 years and then you do specialization, etc. etc. For local students, so people who have Australian nationality or who were born over here, your entire uni education can be supported by government debt. So the government can fund you interest-free loans, and then you start paying it back when you start working. But that facility is not available for students coming from overseas. It's only for local students. And that facility is available regardless of what course you're doing, right? I'll stop there for a moment. Any questions there?
No, sir.
Ramya, you want to ask?
Sir, yeah, in Australia there is something special or any best known for Australia. That's like
No, that's a very good question, Ramya. That's a very, very good question. So, as far as Australia is concerned, um, it's a very small country in terms of population, 25, 26, 30 million people, right? But for that population, Australia is very big in sport. So you would find that Australians are good in almost every major sport in the world. So whether it is cricket, whether it is athletics, whether it is swimming, tennis, Formula One racing, hockey, soccer, um, Australia tries to excel in a number of sports. And that's because from schooling, children are encouraged to do one, two, three sport during their entire school life. And if you're good, then you get supported to go at the state level and the national level, etc., etc. So that's number one for Australia as far as sport is concerned. As far as the economy is concerned, the Australian economy is really blessed because it has three or four things that it exports from Australia in very large quantity. So mining is a big sector, whether you're talking about coal, iron ore, nickel, uranium, lithium, gold. So mining is a very big sector. Oil and gas, again, very, very big in Australia, and net a massive exporter of both oil and gas. Agriculture, very big otherwise. So we feed almost half of Europe in terms of wheat, rice, pulses. Especially after the war in Ukraine, the Australian grain has become quite demanded. So from an economy perspective, these three or four sectors are really key to the Australian economy. The third thing about Australia, which is very good, is that, like I said to you, it is a very cosmopolitan country. In your day-to-day life, you will interact with people who are like Australian, but you will have Asian people from China, Japan, South Korea, Malaysians, Singaporeans, Indonesians, um, people from Southeast Asia, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, people from Europe, people from Africa, people from the US. There are people from everywhere over here in your day-to-day life, but everyone speaks English.
Yes, sir. English is the international language for that.
Correct. But it's not the same, Ramya, everywhere. Like, say, for example, with my work, I have traveled to places like Japan, places like Germany, places like France, where if you don't know the local language, like in Japan, if you don't know Japanese, or in France, if you don't know French, or in Germany, if you don't know German, it's very difficult. You would not believe that your English will take you nowhere over there. It's very difficult to survive. Whereas over here, um, if you don't know English, it's very difficult to survive, both spoken and written English. And typically, when you go to any country like Australia or to any other Western country or whatever, the one thing that you have to learn to do is to A, speak slowly, because normally people from the subcontinent or from India tend to speak a bit fast. And secondly, you have to learn to just pause at intervals. Because remember that when you're speaking, the other person is still trying to understand what you're saying.
Sir, what is the main productions in Australia, sir?
Productions. So, like I said, Monica, the main the main economy runs on the basis of mining, agriculture, oil and gas. Um, there's a lot of healthcare and health technology businesses. Um, in places like Sydney and Melbourne, there's a lot of financial services businesses like insurance, banking. On the other hand, there's very little hardcore production. So, for example, there are no car manufacturers in Australia because um, the kind of plants you need to put. So, in say, for example, in India, if you have a plant which is producing 30,000 cars a day, you cannot put such big plants over here because there are no people over here to buy that. And secondly, it is cheaper to then buy it from somewhere else where they are producing in mass quantity. So we don't find a lot of manufacturing. There's a lot of import coming from everywhere, including places like China. Basic stuff like pen, pencils, and everything is all imported because you can't manufacture over here. It's too expensive to manufacture because labor is expensive over here. When you hire someone, you have to pay them the government stipulated wages. So if the minimum wage to be paid for someone is say $20 an hour, you have to pay that person $20 an hour. You cannot say, I will pay you $10 an hour. You cannot do that.
Yes, sir. Currently, you are living in Australia now, sir. What do you most like in Australia and what do you dislike in Australia, sir?
What do I most like? So I am a foodie. I love good food. In Australia, you can get food from every part of the world. You get Indian food, you get Chinese, you get Japanese, you get Mexican, you get Indonesian, you get Malaysian food, you get South American food. You get food from all over the world in Australia. And for me, I think um, that is one of the plus points. That's just a very personal thing. What do I not like in Australia? I don't know. I never thought about it. Okay, actually, what do I not like about Australia? It's just very far off from anywhere. So I'll give you an example. When I was staying in London in between 2000 and 2003, every 3 months or 4 months, I used to have someone visit me from India or whatever. Because London is on the way to Europe, London is on the way to the US, and a lot of people come as tourists to London. So anyone was going to the US who friend of ours used to say, okay, let's stop over in London for 2, 3 days. Ishwar is there, we'll spend some time with him and go. Or someone is going to Europe, they'll say, let's stop over in London for 3, 4 days. Australia is not on the way to anywhere. If you have to come to Australia, you have to come to Australia. So, from a friends and family perspective, we don't have too many people visiting us simply because it's just quite far off in terms of distance. I think to me that is the biggest downside.
So why Australia give importance to the BCA students? I found this thing, so I'm asking. Sir.
So, places like Sydney and places like Melbourne and places like Brisbane, um, a lot of a lot of the local work is around um, services sector, right? So it's everything is around services, banking, asset management, insurance, consulting work, IT consulting. Um, that's why I think anyone with that sort of a background, with a commerce background or a finance background or a law background, um, or some sort of an accounting background, uh, they would tend to do well in these cities, in these big cities, because there is a lot of focus there on hiring people with an exposure there. So that's number one. Number two, uh, in the last in the last 5, 10 years, there's a very big focus on gender diversity. So there is a massive focus on hiring equal number of males, females in the workforce at all levels. And there is a very big focus on pay parity. You understand pay parity?
No, sir.
Pay parity is if a girl and a guy are doing the same job and they are equally capable, you cannot pay the guy higher than the girl. You have to pay them the same. So, gender pay parity and just gender diversity is become quite a big issue now over here in terms of when you go to hire. Plus, along with gender is ethnicity. So, trying to make sure that your workforce has people from all backgrounds, whether they are Australian, whether they are white, whether they are Asian, whether they are Indian, Japanese, South American, trying to make sure that your workforce is a very diverse workforce. So once you put all this, it becomes a very attractive proposition to come and look for work, um, study here in say 3 or 4 of these major cities.
Sir, why does Australia come under monarchy, sir?
I don't know, Marga. There's a long history to this. So Australia is part of the Commonwealth, right? And then as part of that, until recently, until the Queen died, the Queen was the head of the monarchy for whatever reason. But then there is also a Governor General in Australia. Now, after the Queen passed away, the King is the head of the state or whatever, right? And this goes back to very long time. Um, Even as recent as say 5 years back, they tried to put a referendum whereby they tried to remove that and bring in what we have in India as in a presidential democracy. So you have the president in India. We don't have the queen or the king as our head in India, right? We have a president, and then you have the prime minister. So they tried to bring that sort of system, and the whole country had to vote for that, and it was voted down because a lot of the older people, a lot of the senior people who are here, for some nostalgic reason, they like that. For some nostalgic reason. Now, the younger generation likes it because there is one public holiday called Queen's Birthday, which every state gets. And the only reason why the younger generation likes it is there is one public holiday for that. If they remove the Queen or the King and that public holiday goes, nobody will like it. Because unlike in India, we don't have many public holidays. There are only 8 or 9 public holidays. Um, it's just that it's a long history with that. Will it remain for long? It may not. But to remove it, again, they'll have to go to the entire population to get a vote. They can't just remove it.
Why does Australia come under underpopulated country, sir?
So if you look at the population, like I said to you, and you divide it by the number of um, sorry, if you divide it by the area of the country, it's very small for the length and breadth of the country. So with that metric, it looks underpopulated. But if you if you look into the country as such, you would see that a large portion of the middle part is all desert. You could be driving on a road for 10 hours and you will not see a single person on that road in the desert. Not a single person you will see. For 10 hours you'll be driving. So the population is concentrated only amongst 3 or 4 cities: Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, um, and Perth. That's it. 90% of the population, 80% of the population resides in 4 cities. And these 4 cities make up hardly 10% of the area of the country. So 60-70% of the country has nobody who stays there because you can't stay there. It's all desert.
Sir, why does kangaroos are very famous in Australia, not in different countries? Why does kangaroo grow in particular Australia why does it doesn't grow in other countries?
That is a good question, Monica, and I don't know the answer. I don't know why kangaroos are found mainly in Australia only, but I will find out and I will tell Arvind the answer. Um, it may be it's a historical thing whereby certain animals are found in only certain countries because of history or whatever, um, and that's why kangaroos have that sort of history here. I don't know. Um,
Sir, why does Australia has only like a small amount of states, like only 6 states? Why does it doesn't have any like more states like India?
6 also is too much
Sir,
because 6 also is quite a lot because once you have a state, then you have a state government, then you have elections, then you have the whole government machinery. There's a lot of money that gets wasted. There was some talk I remember 10 years, 15 years back of collapsing the number of states and reducing it, but then it didn't go anywhere. Um, because as soon as you have a state, then you have to have a whole government machinery behind that, which is a lot of waste of time, money, effort. Um, like even one of the states is Tasmania, right?
yes, sir.
Tasmania is on the side there. It's like an island. It's a very small state. I don't know how many people it has, but you would think half the working population over there works in the government
No.
because nothing else happens in Tasmania. It's only tourists. But because it is a state, it will have a whole government machinery. It will have a health department. It will have a police department. It will have a fire department, which is quite a lot of money to spend on a state infrastructure. So I don't think anyone is talking about having more states at this stage. It will simply be a lot of replication of a lot of infrastructure.
Sir, who will rule the Australia, sir? Like we have Modi, Narendra Modi. So who is the Prime Minister of that country?
So
Prime Minister.
here we have two main parties. You have the Labour Party and you have the Liberal Party. So currently the Labour Party is in power, um, and the Liberal Party who was in power for the last 10, 12 years or whatever, um, they lost power in the last election, and then now the Labour is in power. The Prime Minister is from the Labour Party.
Sir, is there any
But
culture or
elections over here are every 4 years.
4 years? Is there any culture or festival where people all celebrate together?
So, like I said, it's a very cosmopolitan place. Uh, Christmas is the biggest festival in December, and the whole place shuts down at least for a week between Christmas and New Year. Um, that's when a lot of people take holidays. And it's summertime. Schools are closed. People go on holidays. People go abroad. The cricket season starts in summer. So India, for example, will be coming to Australia in December of this year for their tour. The other big festivals that are celebrated are Chinese New Year, which was a week or so back. It's celebrated, but not by everyone, but by a large component of the population. Diwali is also celebrated here amongst Indians, and in a lot of other companies as such. Um, and some of the Muslim festivals are also celebrated quite a lot. But unlike in India, we don't get holidays for all these festivals. Only Christmas there are national holidays. But for all these other, like for Diwali and all that, everyone goes to work. This you can celebrate on the weekend with your friends and family, but otherwise you just go to work.
Sir, in India, we will consider Sunday as holiday, rest day. But in Australia, which day is considered as holiday? Like weekend.
So normally, Ramya, most places Saturday, Sunday will be holiday. Most places. If you are working in, say, finance, accounting, um, those sort of jobs or whatever, in a corporate, but not everybody gets Saturday, Sunday holiday. Like, so for example, if you're working in restaurants or if you're working in the hotel industry, if you're working in services industry, like say, for example, at the airports, you may not get Saturday, Sunday holiday. You might get some other days. Um, Normally, most places are 5 day week. Normally, and schools also are closed Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, Ishwar, I think we're on top. It's 4:35, must be 10 p.m. for you, 10:05 p.m. for you, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything else you want to ask Monica or Ramya
No, sir.
before Umaji takes up the next session? So I hope you both got answers except for the kangaroo question. You didn't add the koala animal also. There's one more animal called koala. It's found only
Yes.
in Australia. So like, he was very lucky. You just targeted kangaroo. So, so I hope
No, no,
all your yeah. Sorry.
no.
Yeah.
I was just saying, if at a later date, if either Monica or Maya, whatever, they want to ask anything regarding Australia, more than happy to get a call or sit down again. That's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, one more thing, Ishwar. I've been telling them not to use these acronyms, BCA and all that, because these are not common even in India. Forget the foreign countries. So, what BCA means is Bachelor of Computer Applications. I think you misunderstood as commerce, so I didn't want to stop you. So, it is BCA, Bachelor of Computer Applications. So, it is one level below MCA. So it's more into computers. So she was asking, not about commerce.
No, no. Even as far as the IT sector is concerned, there's a lot of demand for people in the IT sector. And currently,
Yeah,
Ramya, I think the big area of demand is data analytics and
yeah,
cybersecurity.
mm,
The two big areas of huge demand are data analytics and cybersecurity.
yeah. So, so if there are no more questions, can we thank Ishwar for his time? So thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
thank you, Ishwar, for
All
agreeing
good,
to
all
my
good.
request.
Don't
Yeah,
worry.
agreeing to my request when you came down to India, came down to Bangalore on 29th. I requested you to conduct because what I heard from these girls is one of them said Switzerland, one of them said Australia. So I thought Switzerland was done already in December. So Australia was pending, and you have fulfilled their wish. So I should thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Anything you would like to say, Monica and Ramya, to my dear friend Ish?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving so much lot of information about Australia, sir.
Don't
Thank
worry.
you.
All good, Ramya.
Yeah.
Hope
Thank
to
you
see
for
you.
giving your time, sir. Precious
Don't worry.
time.
All good, Monica. Hope to see you here in Sydney very soon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You take care. Have a good evening.